I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into what feels like an endless abyss. Your heart is racing. Your palms are sweating. Every instinct in your body is screaming at you to step back, to turn around, to run. But here's the thing. What if I told you that this very moment, this exact feeling that's coursing through your veins right now is not your enemy? What if I told you that this fear, this terror that feels like it's going to consume you, is actually the most powerful fuel you'll ever possess? 3 years ago, I was sitting in my car outside a building I'd driven past hundreds of times. It was a Tuesday morning, and I had an interview for a job that could change everything. But I couldn't get out of the car. I sat there for 27 minutes, watching people walk in and out of those glass doors, and all I could think about was failure. What if I wasn't good enough? What if they saw right through me? What if I embarrassed myself so badly that I'd never recover? Sound familiar? That voice in your head that whispers or sometimes screams all the reasons why you can't, why you shouldn't, why you're not ready. We've all been there. We've all felt that paralyzing grip of fear that makes us question everything we thought we knew about ourselves. You know what's interesting? Every single person who has ever achieved something extraordinary, every single person who has ever broken through barriers and changed the world, it felt exactly what you're feeling right now. The difference isn't that they didn't have fear. The difference is what they did with it. Thomas Edison, the man who literally brought light to the world, was told by his teachers that he was too stupid to learn anything. Imagine being 8 years old and having your teacher tell you that you're worthless. Most people would have believed it. Most people would have let that fear of inadequacy define them. But Edison, he took that fear and transformed it into determination. Every time he failed, and he failed over 1,000 times before creating the light bulb, that fear whispered in his ear. But instead of listening to what it said, he listened to what it meant. It meant he was pushing boundaries. It meant he was trying something that had never been done before. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because his editor said he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Can you imagine the man who created Mickey Mouse, who built an empire of dreams, was told he had no imagination? That rejection, that fear of never being good enough, could have ended his story right there. But Disney understood something that most people don't. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a compass. It points you toward what matters most to you. Right now, as you're listening to this, there's something in your life that scares you. Maybe it's starting that business you've been dreaming about for years. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's pursuing a creative passion that feels too risky, too uncertain. Maybe it's simply being vulnerable enough to let someone really see you. Whatever it is, I want you to understand this, that fear you're feeling is not random. It's not meaningless. Your fear is trying to tell you something incredibly important about who you are and what you're capable of becoming. See, we've been taught to think about fear all wrong. We've been conditioned to believe that fear is the enemy, that brave people don't feel afraid, that courage means the absence of fear. But that's not courage, that's ignorance. True courage isn't the absence of fear. True courage is feeling the fear and choosing to move forward anyway. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt afraid? Really? Truly afraid? Now think about what you were afraid of. Was it something that didn't matter to you? Was it something you could easily walk away from? Of course not. You were afraid because it mattered. You were afraid because it was important. You were afraid because deep down, you knew that whatever you were facing had the power to change your life. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your teacher. Fear is your guide. Fear is your fuel. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think that overcoming fear means eliminating it, getting rid of it, pretending it doesn't exist. That's impossible. And even if it were possible, it would be the worst thing you could do. Because fear isn't something to be conquered, it's something to be understood, respected, and ultimately transformed. Think about it this way. Every single fear you have is connected to something you value. If you're afraid of failure, it's because you value success. If you're afraid of rejection, it's because you value connection. If you're afraid of looking foolish, it's because you value respect. Your fears are actually a roadmap to your deepest values and desires. Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest leaders in human history, was terrified of public speaking. Can you imagine the man who would go on to deliver the Gettysburg Address, one of the most powerful speeches ever given, was literally afraid to speak in front of people. He would get physically sick before giving speeches. His hands would shake, his voice would crack. But Lincoln understood something profound. He wasn't afraid of speaking, he was afraid of not being worthy of the message he needed to share. That fear didn't disappear when he became president. It evolved. It became the driving force behind his commitment to preparation, his dedication to understanding every nuance of the issues he spoke about, his deep respect for the power of words to heal or harm. His fear made him better. It made him more careful, more thoughtful, more impactful. This is what I want you to understand about your own fears. They're not holding you back. They're preparing you. They're not weakening you. They're strengthening you. They're not limiting you. They're focusing you. But transformation doesn't happen automatically. Fear doesn't magically turn into fuel just because you want it to. It requires a fundamental shift in how you think about fear, how you relate to it, how you use it. The first step is acknowledgement. You have to be honest about what you're afraid of, not the surface level fears. Everyone can admit they're afraid of spiders or heights. I'm talking about the deep fears, the ones that wake you up at 3 a.m., the ones that make you question everything about yourself and your life. Maybe you're afraid that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not deserving enough. Maybe you're afraid that if people really knew you, they wouldn't love you. Maybe you're afraid that you'll never live up to your own potential, that you'll waste the gifts you've been given. These fears feel terrible. They feel overwhelming. They feel like truths. But here's what I need you to understand. They're not truths. They're invitations. They're invitations to grow, to become, to transform into the person you're meant to be. Henry Ford, the man who revolutionized transportation and changed the world, failed at his first 2 car companies, complete failures, not just minor setbacks, total disasters. He was laughed at, dismissed, written off. The fear of failing again, of being humiliated again, could have stopped him. But Ford made a choice. He decided that his fear of failure would become his commitment to excellence. Every doubt, every worry, every moment of terror became fuel for innovation, for persistence, for breakthrough. The second step is reframing. This is where the magic happens. This is where fear transforms from an obstacle into an opportunity. Instead of asking, what if I fail? You start asking, what if I succeed? Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, you focus on what could go right. Instead of seeing fear as evidence that you're not ready, you see it as evidence that you're growing. But reframing isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine. It's about understanding the true nature of fear. Fear is not a prediction of the future. It's a protection mechanism from the past. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, and it does that by remembering everything that has ever hurt you and trying to prevent it from happening again. That's why you're afraid to try new things, because you remember what it felt like to fail before. That's why you're afraid to be vulnerable, because you remember what it felt like to be hurt before. That's why you're afraid to dream big, because you remember what it felt like to be disappointed before. But here's the problem with that approach. It doesn't just protect you from pain. It protects you from possibility. It protects you from growth. It protects you from becoming who you're meant to be. Mahatma Gandhi was afraid, terrified. Actually, when he first started speaking out against injustice, his voice would shake, his hands would tremble, he would lose sleep for days before important speeches or meetings. But Gandhi understood that his fear wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign of the magnitude of what he was trying to accomplish. That fear became his fuel. Every moment of terror became a moment of clarity about how important his mission was. Every doubt became determination. Every worry became wisdom. Gandhi didn't overcome his fear. He transformed it into the most powerful force for change the world had ever seen. This is what's possible for you. This is what's waiting for you on the other side of your fear. Not the absence of fear, but the transformation of fear into power, into purpose, into progress. The third step is action. And this is where most people get stuck. They acknowledge their fears, they reframe their perspective, but they never take action. They wait for the fear to go away, for the perfect moment, for absolute certainty. But here's the secret. The fear never goes away. The perfect moment never comes. Certainty is an illusion. You have to act in spite of the fear. You have to move forward while afraid. You have to take the leap while your knees are shaking. But here's what's beautiful about this. Every time you act in spite of fear, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. Every time you move forward while afraid, you build confidence. Every time you take the leap while shaking, you discover that you can fly. Start small. You don't have to climb Mount Everest tomorrow. You don't have to quit your job and start a business next week. You don't have to completely transform your life by Friday. But you do have to start. You do have to take one step. You do have to prove to yourself that fear doesn't have to have the final word. What's one thing you've been afraid to do? What's one conversation you've been avoiding? What's one dream you've been postponing? What's one risk you've been afraid to take? Start there. Start with that one thing. Take that one step. Have that one conversation. Pursue that one dream. Take that one risk. And when you do, and you will, because I believe in you, something incredible will happen. You'll discover that the fear was worse than the reality. You'll realize that you were stronger than you thought. You'll understand that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else is more important than fear. Colonel Sanders was 65 years old when he started KFC. 65. Most people at that age are thinking about retirement, about slowing down, about playing it safe. But Sanders had a vision, a dream, a recipe that he believed in. He was terrified. Terrified of failure, of rejection, of wasting what little time he had left. But he was more afraid of dying with his music still inside him. He was rejected 1,009 times before someone finally said yes to his chicken recipe. 1,009 rejections. Can you imagine each rejection was a moment of fear, of doubt, of wanting to give up? But Sanders understood that every no was bringing him closer to a yes. Every rejection was fuel for his determination. That fear, that terror of wasting his life, became the driving force behind one of the most successful restaurant chains in history. At 65, when most people are afraid to try anything new, Sanders proved that it's never too late to turn your fears into fuel. This is what I want you to understand about your own life. It's not too late. You're not too old. You're not too inexperienced. You're not too anything. You're exactly where you need to be. with exactly what you need to start transforming your fears into fuel. But transformation requiert patience. It requires persistence. It requires the understanding that growth is not a destination, it's a journey. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when the fear feels overwhelming again. There will be times when you want to quit, when you want to go back to the safety of your comfort zone. That's normal. That's human. That's part of the process. The key is not to avoid those moments, but to expect them, to prepare for them, to use them as opportunities to prove to yourself how far you've come. Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. Cut, not just benched, completely removed from the team. The coach didn't think he was good enough. Imagine being told that you're not good enough at the thing you love most, the thing you dream about, the thing that defines you. That rejection, that fear of never being good enough, could have ended Jordan's basketball career before it started. Instead, it became the fuel that drove him to practice harder, train longer, and push himself further than anyone else. Every time he stepped on the court, he carried that fear with him, not as a burden, but as motivation. Jordan didn't just overcome his fear of not being good enough, he transformed it into a relentless pursuit of excellence. That fear became the foundation of his legendary work ethic, his competitive drive, his refusal to accept anything less than greatness. This is the power of transformed fear. It doesn't just help you overcome obstacles, it turns obstacles into opportunities. It doesn't just help you achieve your goals, it helps you discover goals you never knew you had. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a teacher who had always dreamed of writing a book. For 15 years, she carried this dream with her, but she was terrified. Terrified that she wasn't a good enough writer. Terrified that no one would want to read what she had to say. Terrified that she would pour her heart into something and have it rejected. That fear kept her paralyzed for over a decade. She would start writing, then stop. She would outline chapters, then delete them. She would dream about being an author, then convince herself it was impossible. But one day, Sarah realized something. She wasn't actually afraid of writing a bad book. She was afraid of not writing any book at all. She was afraid of dying with her story still inside her. She was afraid of wasting the gift she'd been given. That shift in perspective changed everything. Instead of seeing her fear as a reason not to write, she saw it as a reason to write. Instead of seeing her fear as evidence that she wasn't ready, she saw it as evidence that this mattered to her. Instead of seeing her fear as an obstacle, she saw it as fuel. Sarah wrote her book. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a bestseller, but it was hers. It was real. It was proof that she could transform fear into action, doubt into determination, terror into triumph. And you know what happened next? Sarah discovered that she wasn't just afraid of writing one book. She was afraid of not writing at all. That fear became the fuel for her second book. Her third book, her career as an author, what started as paralyzing terror became the driving force behind her dreams. This is what's possible for you. This is what happens when you stop running from your fears and start running with them. This is what happens when you stop seeing fear as your enemy and start seeing it as your ally. But here's what I need you to understand. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's not a switch you flip or a decision you make once. It's a practice. It's a daily choice to see fear differently, to respond to fear differently, to use fear differently. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. You can let your fears control you, or you can control your fears. You can let your fears define you, or you can define your fears. You can let your fears limit you, or You can let your fears fuel you. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. It will always be yours. Oprah Winfrey grew up in poverty, faced abuse, and was told she was unfit for television news because she was too emotionally invested in her stories. That fear of not being accepted, of not being worthy, could have silenced her voice forever. Instead, it became the fuel that drove her to create her own platform, to tell her own stories, to become one of the most influential media personalities in history. Oprah didn't overcome her fear of rejection. She transformed it into a deep understanding of human connection. She didn't eliminate her fear of not being worthy. She used it to create content that made others feel worthy. She didn't get rid of her fear of being too emotional. She turned it into her greatest strength. This is the path forward. This is how you turn your fears into fuel. You don't fight them. You don't ignore them. You don't try to eliminate them. You understand them. You respect them. You transform them. And here's what's beautiful about this process. As you transform your fears, you transform your life. As you change your relationship with fear, you change your relationship with possibility. As you stop running from what scares you, you start running toward what excites you. I want you to think about the person you were 5 years ago. Think about what you were afraid of then. Some of those fears probably seem silly now, don't they? Things that felt impossible then are probably part of your normal life now. That's because you've grown, you've changed. You've become stronger, wiser, more capable. But here's the thing, you still have fears. Different fears may be deeper fears, but fears nonetheless. And that's not a problem. That's not a sign that you're not growing. That's a sign that you're still pushing boundaries, still challenging yourself, still becoming who you're meant to be. The fears never disappear. They evolve, they grow with you. They become more sophisticated, more nuanced, more complex, but they also become more powerful when transformed into fuel. Steve Jobs was terrified of not leaving a mark on the world. That fear of insignificance drove him to push boundaries, to challenge conventions, to create products that would revolutionize entire industries. When he was diagnosed with cancer, that fear intensified, but instead of paralyzing him, it motivated him to work even harder, to be even more innovative, to ensure that his legacy would outlive him. Jobs didn't overcome his fear of insignificance. He transformed it into a relentless pursuit of excellence that changed the world. That fear became the fuel that powered Apple, that inspired countless innovations, that touched billions of lives. Your fears have that same potential. Your fears have that same power. Your fears can become the fuel that drives you to achieve things you never thought possible, to become a person you never thought you could be, to make a difference you never thought you could make. But it starts with a decision. It starts with a choice to see fear differently. It starts with the courage to face what scares you and ask not, how can I avoid this, but how can I use this? Right now, in this moment, you have the power to transform your relationship with fear. You have the ability to turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength. You have the opportunity to take what has been holding you back and make it the force that propels you forward. It won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. It won't be comfortable. Growth never is. It won't be quick. Transformation takes time, but it will be worth it. It will be life-changing. It will be the difference between living a life of regret and living a life of purpose. J.K. Rowling was a single mother living on welfare when she wrote the first Harry Potter book. She was afraid of failure, afraid of poverty, afraid of not being able to provide for her daughter. She was rejected by 12 publishers before one finally said yes. 12 rejections, each one a moment of fear. of doubt, of wanting to give up. But Rawling understood that her fear of failure was actually her commitment to success. Her fear of poverty was her motivation to create something valuable. Her fear of not being able to provide for her daughter was her determination to build a better life. That fear became the fuel that powered one of the most successful book series in history. It became the foundation of a billion-dollar empire. It became the inspiration for millions of readers around the world, and it all started with a choice. The choice to see fear not as a stop sign, but as a starting point. The choice to use fear not as an excuse, but as motivation. The choice to transform fear from an obstacle into an opportunity. This is your moment to make that same choice. This is your opportunity to transform your fears into fuel. This is your chance to turn what has been holding you back into what propels you forward. Look at your life right now. Look at where you are, what you've accomplished, what you've overcome. You're stronger than you think. You're more capable than you believe. You're more resilient than, every challenge you faced, every obstacle you've overcome, every fear you've confronted has been preparing you for this moment. This moment when you decide that fear will no longer control your life. This moment when you choose to transform fear from your master into your servant. The path forward is clear. Acknowledge your fears. Understand what they're really telling you. Reframe them from obstacles into opportunities. Take action in spite of them. Use them as fuel for your journey. And remember, you're not alone in this. Every person who has ever achieved anything significant has walked this path. Every person who has ever made a difference has faced these same fears. Every person who has ever transformed their life has made this same choice. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of fear. It's the choice to use fear as fuel rather than let fear be a barrier. It's the understanding that fear is not your enemy, it's your guide to what matters most. Your fears are not random. They're not meaningless. They're not obstacles to be avoided. They're signposts pointing you toward your purpose. They're compasses directing you toward your destiny. They're fuel waiting to be ignited. The question is not whether you'll face fear. You will. The question is what you'll do with it when you do. Will you let it stop you? Or will you let it fuel you? Will you let it define you? Or will you let it refine you? Will you let it be your master? Or will you make it your servant? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. It will always be yours. And right now, in this moment, I'm asking you to make that choice. I'm asking you to decide that today is the day you stop running from your fears and start running with them. Today is the day you stop seeing fear as your enemy and start seeing it as your ally. Today is the day you transform your fears into fuel. Because here's what I know about you. Even though we've never met, I know that you have dreams. I know that you have potential. I know that you have something unique and valuable to offer the world. I know that you're capable of more than you've ever imagined. But I also know that you're afraid of failure, afraid of success, afraid of rejection, afraid of acceptance, afraid of not being enough, afraid of being too much, and that's okay. In fact, it's perfect because those fears are not evidence that you're not ready. They're evidence that you're exactly where you need to be. They're evidence that you're on the verge of something great. They're evidence that you're about to transform your life in ways you never thought possible. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. Most people would have been broken by that experience. Most people would have given up on their dreams, their hopes, their vision for a better world. But Mandela understood that his fear of dying in prison was actually his commitment to living for justice. His fear of never seeing freedom was his determination to create freedom for others. When he was finally released, Mandela didn't overcome his fears. He transformed them. His fear of continued oppression became his fuel for reconciliation. His fear of revenge became his commitment to forgiveness. His fear of division became his passion for unity. Mandela turned his greatest fears into his greatest strengths. He transformed his deepest wounds into his most powerful weapons for change. He used what could have destroyed him to build something beautiful for the world. This is the power that lies within you. This is the potential that's waiting to be unleashed. This is the transformation that's possible when you choose to see fear differently. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. This is your one chance to make a difference, to leave a mark, to become who you're meant to be. Don't let fear rob you of that opportunity. Don't let fear steal your dreams. Don't let fear write the ending to your story. Instead, let fear be the fuel that ignites your passion. Let fear be the catalyst that sparks your transformation. Let fear be the force that propels you toward your purpose. I want you to imagine yourself 1 year from now. Imagine that you've taken the leap. Imagine that you've faced your fears and used them as fuel. Imagine that you've transformed your relationship with fear and, in doing so, transformed your life. What does that look like? What have you accomplished? What have you overcome? What have you become? Who are you now that you've learned to use fear as fuel instead of letting fear use you as its victim? That vision, that possibility, that future version of yourself is not just a dream. It's a destination. It's where you're heading when you choose to transform your fears into fuel. But getting there requires a commitment. It requires the decision to see fear differently every day. It requires the courage to take action in spite of fear every day. It requires the understanding that fear is not your enemy, it's your teacher, your guide, your fuel. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, today, before you go to sleep tonight, I want you to identify one fear that's been holding you back. Just one. Not all of them. That's too overwhelming. Just one. Maybe it's the fear of starting that business. Maybe it's the fear of having that difficult conversation. Maybe it's the fear of pursuing that creative passion. Maybe it's the fear of being vulnerable with someone you care about. Whatever it is, I want you to write it down. I want you to look at it. I want you to acknowledge it. And then I want you to ask yourself, what is this fear really about? What value is it connected to? What does it tell me about what matters to me? And then I want you to take one small action, not a giant leap, just one small step. If you're afraid of starting a business, research one aspect of business planning. If you're afraid of having a difficult conversation, write down one thing you want to say. If you're afraid of pursuing a creative passion, spend 15 minutes working on it. One small action, one small step, one small proof to yourself that fear doesn't have to have the final word in your life. And when you take that action, and you will, because I believe in you, something incredible will happen. You'll discover that you're stronger than your fear. You'll realize that you're more capable than you thought. You'll understand that fear is not your master. You are. That's the beginning of transformation. That's the first step toward turning your fears into fuel. That's the moment when you start writing a new chapter in your story. Because here's the truth that I want you to carry with you long after you finish listening to this. You are not your fears. You are not your doubts. You are not your insecurities. You are not your past failures or your future worries. You are a unique, valuable, capable human being with something special to offer the world. You have dreams that matter. You have potential that's waiting to be unleashed. You have the power to transform not just your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. Your fears are not evidence of weakness. They're evidence of possibility. They're not proof that you're not ready. They're proof that you're growing. They're not signs that you should give up. They're signs that you're onto something important. So embrace your fears. Welcome them. Thank them for pointing you toward what matters most. and then transform them into the fuel that powers your journey toward becoming who you're meant to be. The world needs what you have to offer. The world needs your unique gifts, your special talents, your distinctive perspective. The world needs you to stop playing small, to stop hiding, to stop letting fear keep you from your destiny. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your opportunity to transform your fears into fuel and your life into a masterpiece. The question is not whether you can do it. You can. The question is whether you will do it. Will you make the choice to see fear differently? Will you make the commitment to act in spite of fear? Will you make the decision to transform your fears into fuel? I believe you will. I believe in you. I believe in your potential. I believe in your ability to transform your life in ways you never thought possible. Your story is not over. Your best chapters are still to be written. Your greatest achievements are still ahead of you. Your most powerful moments are waiting for you on the other side of your fears. So take that first step. Face that first fear. Transform that first obstacle into opportunity, and then take another step, and another, because every step you take in spite of fear is a victory. Every action you take despite doubt is a triumph. Every moment you choose courage over comfort is a transformation. And one day, you'll look back on this moment, this decision to transform your fears into fuel, as the turning point, as the moment when everything changed, as the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. That life is waiting for you. That future is calling your name. That transformation is ready to begin. All you have to do is choose it. All you have to do is start. All you have to do is turn your fears into fuel. The power is in your hands. The choice is yours. The moment is now. What are you waiting for? Your fear is not your enemy. Your fear is your fuel. Use it. Transform it. Let it power your journey toward the life you were meant to live. The world is waiting for what you have to offer. Don't keep it waiting any longer. Turn your fears into fuel. Transform your life. Become who you were meant to be. The time is now. The person is you. The power is within you. Go, create, transform, become. Your greatest life is waiting for you on the other side of your fears. And if you found value in this message, if it resonated with something deep inside you, if it sparked a flame of possibility in your heart, then share it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with someone who's struggling with their own fears. Share it with someone who's ready to transform their life, because transformation is contagious. Courage is contagious. When you choose to turn your fears into fuel, you give others permission to do the same. When you choose to live boldly, if you inspire others to live boldly, when you choose to become who you were meant to be, you show others that they can become who they were meant to be too. So subscribe to this channel if you want more content that challenges you to grow, that inspires you to transform, that reminds you of your incredible potential. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a message that could change your life. And remember, you are more powerful than you know, more capable than you believe, and more ready than you think. Your fears are not your limitations. They're your launching pad. Use them, transform them, let them fuel your flight. The sky is not the limit. Your fears are not the limit. You are limitless. Now go prove it to yourself. Turn your fears into fuel. Transform your life. Become who you are meant to be. The world is waiting for you, and so am I.